Hello, everybody. This is your head of training, David Bovin, and today we are going over how to handle a rental listing. So I'm going to go through the docs you need, some tips that I have for you, as well as MLS information. So I'm going to go ahead and exit my screen here and get to .loop. So the first step for you putting up a rental listing will be to add a loop. So you're going to put in the property address. Okay. Photo is not necessary. We'll click view loop. And now we need to add templates. So I like to rename the folder listing docs and disclosures. And this way, you know what's all under there. So if you go to Kale Realty Documents, you type in leasing. Rental agreement. So we have the exclusive rental agreement. I just want to see something here real quick. And if you're with Main Street, you can use the one for Main Street. Okay. So we'll go ahead and add that. We also need to add our disclosures. So we will need the anti-fraud notice. We will need the affiliated business disclosure. And you're going to need all of your disclosures from the state. So we're going to need radon. If the house is built before 78, you'll need lead-based paint. So we're going to add all those in. You do not need the seller disclosure when it comes to listing a rental property. So we have everything here. We're going to add people. Okay. So Mr. Landlord and his job is being a landlord. And let's say there's two people. So maybe there's Mrs. Landlord as well. So we're going to add them. Make sure you add their email addresses. You're going to check the box that highlights everything, open them up. And we're good to go on that front. Listing agent will be you. Put in the address, 123 Home Street, Bolingbrook. The amount of rent. So let's say that the rent is $2,000. Commission, 1 month's rent, security deposit. Now, if you're in the city, okay, if you're in Chicago, there are a lot of people that do not do security deposits anymore because it's really tough. So you may want to do a move-in fee or suggest that to your client. Obviously, you're not going to ask for a move-in fee of the entire amount of rent. I usually suggest a quarter or half the rent, so $500 in this case. And we're going to call it a move-in fee. Listing date. So now we're going to click autofill. And we have all of our information filled in here. So just make sure that you go ahead and get all of this signed, initialed, get your disclosures, initialed, and you're good to go. So you're going to save and share these with your client once you have everything filled out. Once your client gets it back to you signed, the next step for you is going to be scheduling, photos or taking the photos yourself. So it's possible that maybe you are good at doing photos, or maybe you have a professional camera for rentals. You can take your own pictures. For me, I generally put it at $1,500. If it's under 1,500, I take the pictures myself. If it's over 1,500, I will hire someone, because generally you're looking at splitting the commission with another agent. So the next step for you, once you have all of your paperwork signed, is to add a new listing. So we're going to click add. We're going to click continue. Our property type will be residential rental, standard listing. We're going to auto populate from tax and MLS data. And we have our address here. So I'm going to go ahead and put something in. See what comes up. You have to put in a zip code, so 60610. Okay. And once you put in your address, you're going to have other places here that you can check. So we're going to match our tax record with the unit that we are putting up for rent. If you want to clone a listing, you can go to the most recent, which is going to be the end. Okay. So we have this one, which is the most recent. We'll clone. We'll click next. You got to go through here and make sure that you have everything checked. And all of our neighborhoods are listed in here too. Just make sure that you go through everything and that everything is filled out correctly. Now remember, the list date has to be the date that you are actually listing it. So let's say you go in here today and you get all your info in, but you're waiting on photos, right? Then what you're going to have to do is come back to this page and change the list date to the day that you are making it active. So you're going to click save and continue. Just trying to get something in here. Sorry, guys, I'm having issues here. Okay. Now, when you go through all of this information, anything with a red star next to it, you are going to have to get filled out. So if you hit save and continue, it's going to tell you what's missing. Okay, so I'm missing showing instructions, compensation. For compensation, obviously you have to do what your listing agreement says, but generally you're going to ask for 1 month's rent. So for compensation, it'll say half month's rent minus 99, depending on how much the property is going for. The back end fee could change, but you can look at Kale Training for that. So now anything that's marked here is required, and we have to go ahead and get it marked. Once you have gotten through that portion of things and your listing is live, basically you are going to start getting phone calls and emails scheduling showings. If the property is vacant, you can set up a go and show where it just comes up with the lockbox automatically if someone requests a showing. If there's a tenant, you can have it set up to where they call you, and that way you will contact your tenant and say, hey, we have a showing. You also have to have an agreement with the owner and the tenant saying how much lead time you're going to provide. So maybe it'll be 24 hours notice, or maybe they'll say, I only need 2 hours notice. Okay, whatever that is, it is. But make sure if there's someone there that you let them know with plenty of time. Once you get someone who's interested, they will go to the Kale application page. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. If you go to Kale Training, password is 1951. You can type in, well, you can actually just click rentals. How does a tenant apply for an apartment? And here's a link. It's actually just kaleapplication.com. So they will send their client, or if you have a client who wants to rent it out, to the Kale application website. They will fill everything out, pay a fee. I believe the fee is $65. Then you will provide all of that information to the owner of the property and make a decision on whether or not you want to accept these tenants. Remember, with tenants, the biggest thing is for you to talk to your owner about potentially making parameters. Now, once you make parameters, you have to abide by them. So if you say you have to have a 650 score, you have to have 3 times the income, you are not allowed to accept someone that does not reach those areas. And the same thing goes for anything that they bring up. But if you do that, that way you have a cut and dry way of saying, sorry, you were denied because you don't reach the minimum requirements of the owner of the property. Once you do get an application in that you want to move with, you're going to get the lease signed, collect the first month's rent, and basically just schedule for when they are going to move in so that you can get whatever other fee, whether it's a move-in fee or security deposit. That rental check for the first month's rent should be made out to Kale Realty, and we will pay the other agent. Okay, if that's the case, if there is another agent, otherwise we'll just pay you. And with that, that is about all I have as far as getting a rental listing going. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to